Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited about this. It's been a long time, much needed. Oh, you know what? There is a thing on my screen. I have to get it. Sorry, I couldn't see your face. There was like a thing that popped up.
Well, now you can see my smiling face just fine. Well, listen, if you're just joining us here on the Kensho Way Podcast, Jennifer is a returning guest, and I had to have her on because in the past, we've talked about some of the lowest hanging fruit when we build resilience. And the truth is, if we're not optimized at our peak potential, well, everything is diminished, including the ability to discover those aspects of ourselves that allow ourselves to grow, to help others. All of those things become diminished if we're not operating at peak potential. And some of the lowest hanging fruit, of course, is hydration. And that's what Jennifer and I kicked around extensively on the last time she was on the show. But I wanted to bring her on today to talk about something that very often goes under the radar completely for most people. And it's interesting because from a resilience building perspective, it's actually essential. It's essential.
I love that you use that word.
Yeah. And it's going to build superpowers in you, right? But I'm telling you that this is so often missed. Even elite athletes miss this particular aspect. And what we're going to be talking about today is hydration, but also this idea of micronutrients, getting the trace minerals into our body that help this machine get cellularly vitalized. And what I mean by that is we're able to pull nutrition into that cell wall and utilize that for energy in our body. But even more importantly to me, an optimized cell also pushes toxins out. And in order to have that optimization, you've got to have enough minerals in your body to take those processes to the next level. So most of us are doing okay. We're surviving. But peak performance, optimization of health really comes down to this trace mineral kind of idea. And we're going to get into some products that Jennifer actually has that I'm a daily user of. And I want to say right from the beginning, I do not have a financial representation with JMar Solutions, her company.
You pay for it.
I pay for it straight up, and I pay full price because these are worth it. And there are certain things that I won't start a day without, and her products are that. And so I really felt that I wanted to bring you some information about this, why it's important to you, but also to expose you to JMar Solutions products to say this is an option that makes it so easy and so affordable to reach that optimization. So
it has to be simple.
It's got to be
It
simple.
does. It has to be simple. We're so inundated with so much and we're so stressed out with so many things and this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, we got to keep it simple. We got to keep it simple and convenient and easy. And I'm all about that. Hey, listen, you know what? You are very bright. You're a bright guy. Like I love our conversations whenever we get to talk. I enjoy your brain and how it works and even I listened recently to the last podcast that you did, you know, because I saw it on LinkedIn and I got to listen to it and I was like, this is so good. And I messaged you and I was like, this is so good. People need to hear this. But what does your brain run on? People don't think about things like this. It runs on an electrical currency. Electrical currency. So people think when your heart stops is when you die. And it's actually not until your brain activity stops that you die. Okay. So like, yes, when your heart stops pumping, it takes a little bit of while and then boom, the brain goes, right? But it's when the brain, the electricity going on, the electrical currency going on in the brain stops is when you actually die. Okay. So, and I don't want to get too deep into that, but we run on electrical currencies, our brain does. And so when you think about what we need to fire it up, you need electrolytes. It's even in the word, your brain get lit because we have to have that sodium. People sodium gets such a bad rap. Now, yes, there's table salt. There's like the salt that is over processed that we put on our food and all that. That is a bad salt, right? But the mineral salt, we're made of water and salt. That's what we're made of. And then we're telling people to stay away from it. And what we should be telling people, stay away from sugar, right? You got all the blood pressure issues. So I can see you want to like speak, you can speak over me anytime. You just cut in whenever you want. I love your brain. And so please cut in whenever you want. And so what people don't understand is when they're like, trying to like do something healthy, they're like, oh, I'm going to cut my sodium out. And it's like, no. You got to get the right kind of sodium. You got to get the right kind of mineral going in there, right? You got to get so like to get that brain fog gone, to get, to like be able to function on all levels and just feel like it's firing for you again. People will like say, we'll stay hydrated for that, right? Like we're going to talk about, but yeah, and, you can't hydrate.
So many things, Jennifer, are leaching these minerals out of our body, right? Just day-to-day stress, distress, right? So we're facing some really challenging times here in our country right now.
Yeah.
That stress is there. There's been a lot of change to the family dynamic. All of a sudden you're homeschooling your children and going, how am I going to make my work happen too? And so lots of stress, that's leaching chemicals. We have environmental toxins that leach these minerals out of ourselves, and we're not getting them at the right level to be anywhere near optimal. And you bring up such a good point. There's a lot of baggage around, oh, I need to have low salt because my blood pressure is an issue. No, you need to have the right kind of salt, the right kind of minerals, because your blood pressure is an issue. And these are issues that people are simply not aware of. This is one of those discussions that is very seldom brought in any depth to make the argument, look, we're all deficient when it talking about optimization, and many of us are not even close to what average would be. You want to learn how to thrive? This is the way to do it.
Absolutely.
Now, when we talk about these trace minerals, I actually want to jump right into your products and just kind of use it as a base, a foundation. Now, folks, I'm going to show you these, and they may be reversed on the image, but you'll get the idea, and you can find this at JMar Solutions on the website. But this is the Power Pack, and this one is a concentrated electrolyte drops. These are daily for me. Every single day, these go in my body, and I'm telling you that I have a tangible result. So if you know me, if you've been with me for a while, you know that I call bullshit when there's bullshit. So I put things to the test. I'm the guy who jumps down woo-woo rabbit holes all the time.
Yeah.
And if sitting in a cave, having a guru rub patchouli oil all over your feet while you stare at a candle flame actually worked, I would tell you about it, okay? These products work, and what I appreciate about them is there's a tangible result that you notice immediately.
Right. It's that ionic, because it goes, it's fast absorbing. Yeah.
And I'm so glad you said that, because I want to give people an idea about what this word ionic actually means. Can you give us a nice overview of that? Because it's a word that I hear it bantered around a bit, but it's ionic elements. What is that? Can you give us a little overview?
Okay, so I'm not a scientist, I'm not very smart, and I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor, I'm not any of those things, right? But I worked with athletes for my whole life, and I'm a sports medicine trainer. And one thing I know is, like, if something works, you see it, like immediately, right? So I started using trace minerals products, 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, because of the ionic absorption of it. It's the process that they use to develop the minerals that our heart, our lungs, our brain, every organ, our skin, every organ needs to function at its best, right? So when you're working with athletes, they're all good. And so you want them, so how do you, as a trainer, how do you set your athlete apart from another great athlete? And it's sleep and hydration. Number one is sleep, and then number two is hydration, right? So it's tear down, recover, tear down, recover. So I'm not going to be able to break it down and be smart about the whole ionic process and how they do it. You can go probably find a YouTube thing and look it up and listen to some really smart person talk about ionic. But what you need is you need it quickly. And so what I know about ionic science, or however you want to use whatever terminology you want to use, or ionic electrolytes, the stuff that we use, it just means that it's at a level where it's like at a cellular level where your body can absorb it and use it for energy. And so
there's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key right there, is that absorption. Because
Yeah.
if it isn't going to transfer through the cellular lining, then
Yeah.
that's wasted, right? And when you see a lot of cheap products out there, they are
Mm-hmm.
not absorbed on a cellular level. So we need to have two things happen on the cellular level. We need to have enough hydration inside the cell,
Yeah.
intracellular water, to pull in, and the ionic process opens that cell receptor site to shunt it into the cell more efficiently. Now our mitochondria are able to convert ATP to usable energy in the body. Everything becomes absorbed at a really high level. This is what's happening in processed foods. Like you talked about the salts that are over processed. There's no minerals left in that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sodium. Yeah, that's going to jack us up. But if
Mm-hmm.
you get a pure salt, that's going to absorb super well because it
Yeah.
hasn't been processed. It's got all kinds of minerals in it. I believe over 80 minerals just alone in a really whole salt. So all these things become so important for the absorption piece. And that's where we really drop the ball. If we're not hydrated, if we don't have the electrolytes, and we're not ionically supported with those elements, all that stuff is just cheap processed garbage that goes right into the bowl and doesn't do your body any good. In fact, it could even cause harm. So
You
that's a
know,
huge process right there.
there's a lot of people out there that are doing the prepper thing, like they're prepping just in case, like we have a dark winter, or like something happens and they need to have like food for a little bit of time, or like we have the chain is not doing well. What is that called? The whenever you're trying to get stuff to you.
Oh, the supply chain. Yeah.
That's the word I'm looking for, supply chain. So people are like, they're prepping more than they normally would. And the one thing that when I've heard people are, saying that you need to have on hand is to make sure you have at least like a either a pink salt or like a Himalayan salt, or some kind of sodium that's not, processed, right? Severely processed. There's another one. There's a couple of different salts out there that are more of a whole form, right?
Yeah,
and they're saying make sure you have that.
To be the best are the pink Himalayan salts,
Himalayan, yeah.
and the Celtic gray.
Celtic, that's the one.
Yeah, the Celtic
and so
gray is really good.
What they're doing is what are they trying to do with those things? They're trying to make sure that even if you don't have an access to fruits and vegetables and the things that we're so used to going to the local store to get, at least we can get some minerals into our bodies to keep our organs healthy while we're going through that time period, right? And so knowing that, and knowing what we have in our in the products that we use in my industry, it's already in a liquid ionic form. That's what they're trying to get, though. So it does, what you said is perfect. It makes sense. And we're not taught that, and people don't understand it. That it's that kind of a mineral is so essential to our kidneys, like potassium. Like, come on, we need it. So that's what's in our stuff, is like the potassium, the sodium chloride, and a little bit of magnesium, because you want to have that for the balancing of the heart and for acidity levels and things like that. But real quick, because I don't want to get too nerdy, and you and I have talked about it before, what is the one thing when you get sick that a doctor said, the top two things that a doctor says to you when you get sick, or used to go when you were a kid and you had the flu or you had the cold or something? What would a doctor tell you to do?
My doctor always said two things to me, which was drink lots of water and get lots of rest.
Rest.
If it was a cold,
yep,
feed it. Get nutrition.
Right? Yeah. So the top two is rest, get rest, right? And then hydrate. And people don't know how to do that. So in order to properly hydrate, water alone, it will not hydrate your body. It has to have the essential electrolytes in there to hydrate your body and your organs correctly. That's why an elite athlete can go down on a field and be cramping up, even though they hydrate and drink a gallon of water a day. Right? If they're not getting the right minerals, then they're going to cramp up, they're going to seize up, and we pull them over to the side, and you try and and give them certain sports drinks, things like that, but that doesn't work. It's not fast enough. It's not, there's too many other things in it. But when you have a product like the concentrated electrolytes like we do, which we're actually renaming it. I'm going through a whole process of renaming it because I'm like, concentrated electrolytes, people don't know what that means. Like they don't know the power of what it really is. And I'll tell you, we'll go into that in here in a minute. But or if they get to a point where they're actually shutting down, like a heat stress situation, then they've gone past where you can actually put anything in their body, and you have to give them what? An IV, right?
Absolutely.
Why are so when you go to a hospital, or if you go to the emergency room, or if you get an IV, you're in a pretty bad place if you're having to put an IV in your body. What is in an IV? Salt and water. Like it's minerals. It's not just water. And so people don't realize, they think, oh, IV is hydration, right? But then they don't do the same thing with their water that they're drinking every day. And then they wonder why they feel like crap.
Good point. I'm appreciating that point quite a bit. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is, especially you have athletes or folks that are out doing labor jobs, right?
That's what we work with.
Crew or landscaping, and they're drinking a lot of water, right? Which is great. I'm happy that you're hydrating. But one of the things they don't realize is if that particular fluid you're drinking doesn't contain the electrolytes in it, you're actually diluting the sodium in your body, the essential nutrients that you actually need, right? So you're actually making the situation worse, and that water at some point won't absorb effectively anymore. So even though you're slamming a lot of water, you could still end up with heat and dehydration issues on a super hot day. You're sweating profusely, all of that stuff. So yeah, I agree with you. It's not enough to just hydrate with the water. You want to add the electrolytes to it. Now, while we're on this topic, why do we want to avoid some of the sports drinks that are out there that claim to replace electrolytes?
Well, because it causes the body to run in an inflammatory state, and it's the wrong. Like we were talking about earlier. It's like the wrong kind of sodium. It's a overly processed refined sodium. It's okay. Let me be very clear. It's better than nothing. And so if that's what you have, you need to do it, because it could be the difference between your heart stopping or not. Like if you're in that extreme of a place, because people don't understand. It's really that simple. It happens quick. Like it took you a while to get to that point, but when you start going into organ failure and you're in dehydration mode and you're like heat stress, it can happen fast. People can die very quickly, right? So if that's all you have, then yes, but it's not. There's too many sugars and dyes and like processed and stuff like that in those things, and you have to. It's so diluted. It's in this huge bottle, right? Where we've had athletes, and oh gosh, we've had people. Even I can tell you, we work with a concrete company down in Austin, and they had a guy that runs their crane, and he was going down with heat stress. What people don't understand is the reason they call it heat stress or heat stroke or all the heat related issues that happen with here in Texas. If you're working construction, it's the process is the shutting down of organs to protect the heart, right? So that's why the first thing you see in someone who's dehydrated is a cognitive, like they almost act drunk, right? You see and remember earlier when we started off, I was like, what is your brain running on? It's running on electrical currencies. And so the brain starts shutting down because it doesn't have that sodium factor in there. And then the kidneys, then the other thing, and then the lungs, then, that's the process, right? That's going on. What is that? That's not lack of water. It's lack of electrolytes. Okay. So, when you have something like we have in the liquid, electrolyte that you were showing earlier, our electrolytes, you can literally, it will not taste good. I'll be very clear, but you can literally squirt that in your mouth and then guzzle water. And because what'll happen is because it's ionic, it'll absorb quickly. And within 10 minutes, probably sooner than that, it can relieve cramps right away and stuff. Like I can't say, like, I'm not prescribing. So I can't claim, but this is some of the stories I get. And the reason why they have our stuff at the job site is because this one in particular, let me go back, I'm all over the place. I must have lots of sodium in my brain. No, but when when the crane operator for this one particular project was going down, cramping and seizing up, one of the safety guys said, "Hey, I've heard you can just squirt this stuff in your mouth and it'll help." And so he did. He's, just opened up the thing and went, wow, and then guzzled a bunch of water. And he was able to get out of the cramping that was going on. And he said, when someone gets to that point, the safety guy that called me, he said, when someone usually gets to that point, we're done with them for the day. They either go to the emergency room, we give them an IV, or we make sure they stay, they're done for the day. And he said, in that one particular guy, we needed to do this project. And he was like, I'm not done. He's like, I'm fine. I feel better. And so it helped them finish that project, and it saved the company $20,000. That's not why. I mean, he's more, the safety guy I talked to, his heart is in the right place, and he cares about people going home to their family. He doesn't care about a project as much as he cares about the actual men that are doing the work, But it was just a testimony of why it's so important to know it's not just water. It's not, it's so hard for me to, and you and I deal with this a lot when we talk to people. It's so hard to help them to understand that water is important, but what is in your water? So I always say, like, is it electrolyte infused water? Things like that, to get people thinking differently, like, I have a gallon of water, I drink a gallon of water a day, but I spend my whole day in the bathroom. Well, the reason why is because, like you said earlier, it's just going right through you. But when you put electrolytes in that water, like I know this cowboy friend of mine, he's like, I was drinking 2 gallons of water a day, just trying to stay, hydrated and stuff. He's like, I'm down to a gallon because now the electrolytes. And he's saying, no, I'm not over there peeing all the time, and he said, and I feel really good, and it's simple. 1 to 3 drops per ounce is what I tell people, so that they don't have to think, I don't want.
It's very simple.
It's simple.
When I think about these energy drinks, these electrolyte replacement drinks, and all of that, the issue I have with them typically is that the ingredients are not clean, nor are they highly sourced. They're usually the cheapest possible option. To be honest with you, friends, I don't want a food dye going into my body. I don't need my drink to look neon blue. Okay. I also don't want the sugar.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to deal with that excess sugar, the blood sugar handling issues that creates. So, when people are like, well, yeah, but you have to add that. Yeah, I take my water bottle, I open this up, I go squirt, and I drink. Ooh, it's so difficult. But at the end of the day, here's the real issue. I know that the quality ingredients in here are things that I do want in my body. And it doesn't contain anything I don't want in my body. And the people who listen to this show, they're all about that. They're all about optimization. They're the folks that are going to take it to that next level. Now, like you said, if that's your only option, go for it, because it's better than that to do that than put your body through the stress of a heat-related illness. Or in my environment, I live in the Colorado Rockies. It's very cold here. We can dehydrate as
very fast
as someone in Texas on a 100-degree day when it's 5 below zero here.
Yes.
When you see your breath coming out, that's moisture leaving your body, friends.
That's right.
You're dehydrating at a very high rate. So
and elevated
through the winter. Yeah, and I'm at 8,500 on top of that.
Well, a lot of people have headaches because of that. And people have headaches and they think, I have to drink more water. And it's like, no, you need to drink more electrolyte infused water. But here's the thing: because some people are like, well, I don't like to make my water taste. To put it in the Gatorade, then make the Gatorade actually work. And I say Gatorade, I shouldn't say Gatorade, I should say sports drink, whatever it is that you drink. Even if they drink energy drinks, I'm like, at least put it in there. Because at least you're fueling that drink with something that's going to keep your heart and it's not, I don't recommend it, but it's better than not having it at all. What I like to tell people is the hardest thing you can change in someone is their eating habits. It's the number one hardest thing to do. People will die look at America. People will die before they change their eating habits because it's a habit and they like it and they enjoy it, but if you can tell them to add something that will help them, and because they're not going to change what they're doing, their lifestyle. Like the guys I work with, they're out there, they're the hardest working, salt of the earth. That's funny that I said that. People that you'll ever meet. And I wouldn't do what they do. There's no way. I mean, like there's no way I could do what they do. And then they have to go home to families and have energy for that. And then they do it over again the next day. And if they have a beer on the way home, then they're dehydrating even more. And I'm not knocking that kind of stuff because that's just lifestyle. If you can at least add some value to give someone that extra boost, the reason why they're grabbing, that's what I want people to hear. When I'm talking to a crew of guys that are exhausted, but still work hard because they know that, this is what they do and they got to bring home the money to their families and whatever, right? And provide. Why are you grabbing that energy drink every 3 hours or 2 hours or first thing in the morning? Or why are you grabbing it? Are you grabbing it because you're a bad person? No, you're grabbing it because you want energy. You're not sleeping well because you're up at night cramping up. You have restless legs. You have all these mineral deficiency associated issues that cause even more problems and compound on each other. And then you go to a doctor, some of them, if they go to a doctor, and then they get put on a medicine that makes it even worse, right? And so it's if you can just add that value and give them that energy meet, like you said earlier, when you feel the difference right away, it even says that on one of the things, feel the difference or your money back, right? That's the company that makes our stuff. That's their logo, because they know it's that good because we're so deficient. And so if I can add a little bit of value, if someone on their way home, like my husband, who's a police officer, can add some, electrolytes to his water on the way home, or to his energy drink on the way home, or to his, sports drink, whatever. He wouldn't do that, but I'm just saying, like the average person, or if you stop and get something at the gas station, right? If they can do that, and then they can have a sustained, enduring energy like an athlete does, what's going to happen when they get home? They're going to be a better father or mother, depending on the industry that they're in, right? And they're going to be able to go to the baseball game and not be crabby. They're going to not want to go home and just put their feet up, drink beer until they pass out, and then get up the next morning and do it again. It's not because they're a bad person that they're grabbing these energy drinks. It's because they want energy, and they don't understand that how energy works. And so that's why I created the company I did to help that industry, because we do it for athletes, but we don't do it for the people that are keeping our world, working and functioning in our roads and our, like these people make the world go round, right? And we're not adding any value to them in a way that they can quickly get results that they need, right?
And if they keep that pace up without this kind of replenishment taking place, the long-term results of that can be quite severe, right? Because the body is pretty resilient.
Yeah.
And when you're young, you can get away with a lot. But as you age, what I discover is the folks who don't take advantage of this kind of proper nutrition, proper hydration, they age before their time. It's a very obvious thing where they're just depleted. They've depleted everything out of the body, and now the body's running on reserves, and it can only do that for so long. It's kind of like taking a car, putting it up on a lift, undoing the drain bolt, letting that oil come out, and then you put the car back down, you start it up, and you put the gas on. Eventually, something in that engine's going to fail. It's usually the weakest part of the system is where that expression of failure is going to take place first. And that's why it might be, you might have one part of your body fail, and I have a different part of my body fail, but it's all the same result because the weakest part of that system is compromised first. Yeah. It's the same analogy over the course of a career. As we're doing these things to our body, depleting it of the vitamins, the minerals, all the things that it needs to be optimized, eventually something's going to break down in that machine. So we're also staying ahead of the curve here from a long-term health maintenance issue, graceful aging. We're giving the body everything it can to navigate that with a lot more ease and grace. Now, Jennifer, one of the questions I always get about this trace mineral kind of idea, right? The ionic elements, the trace minerals, the electrolytes. The pushback I get on that frequently is, well, Roger, can't I just eat enough food to get the same result. Well, friends, I'm here to tell you that that is a really tall order. First of all, belly on up to the trough. And you better get ready to eat a lot of different food and a lot of varieties of food to come even close. You won't even get a pale shadow of the concentration you get from a product like this. So when we think about it, the nutrition aspect, I appreciate that comment, but the truth is the volume of food you'd have to eat to get optimal levels is almost impossible. But more importantly, the farming practices that we have had for quite a long time are this is true even in the organic industry.
Oh, absolutely.
They do not contain the same amount of minerals and vitamins that your grandparents ate when they were kids.
The soil's depleted.
The soil's depleted. And this is very real. If you
because of the treatments,
go check it out. Go check it out for yourself. But look,
there's lots of studies.
Farming, lots and lots. And so the only way around this that I know, in order to get to the optimization standpoint, are things like adding these products that you have into our meal, our food, our absorption, to get that into the body at the highest level. Now, when it comes to this idea of nutrition, have you had people also saying this to you? Can't I just get it from the food I eat?
Yeah. And you can, like you said, you still want to eat healthy. Like if you're in our industry, you still want to eat healthy, but when you're having certain, I think we ignore fatigue, we ignore headaches, I'll just take a Tylenol, or I'll just do a sleeping pill, or I'll just do this. And those are all signs of a deficiency. And when you come to the, when you know someone like me or you, like, I mean, our phones are always like off the, like even last night for like an hour, I was texting a friend in Austin who has a friend that's dealing with this thing. And she's like, what should I do for this? What should I do for that? And I'm like, man, I need to start charging for this stuff. But, but it's like, they know that they're like, this person is not getting help in the traditional sense. So they come and they talk to someone like me and they're like, hey, what would you suggest? Or what would you do? And it's like, well, I mean, it sounds like they're deficient in this certain thing. So maybe try and get them that, or they're running a inflammation. Like, I don't want to get into all, it can go on forever, but yes, I mean, it is important to try and get the proper nutrients from your food, but it's hard because it's not found in the soil. And even organic food doesn't, like I do a light bulb demonstration with the guys at the job site, and I to show them how important electrolytes are and how they work. And when you like, I stick a like electrocurrency into like a potato. Well, potato comes from the ground. So the light bulb will turn on a little bit, or I put it in an organic apple and then it won't turn on. It's like, wait, that should turn on. There should be electrolytes in that apple. Every now and then it'll be a little glimmer of a light, But when I have 2 shot glasses and I've just the water that they drink at the job site, like your typical bottled water, whatever that they have at the job site, and then I have another one with the same, and then I put 1 drop of electrolytes in there. I put the little electrocurrency thing in the shot glass, and the light bulb doesn't turn on. I'm like, well, that's water we're drinking. That's the water you guys are drinking. And then I put 1 drop in the other glass, and the light bulb turns on. And I'm like, that's your brain, that's your organs, that's everything getting what they need to function and putting back in what y'all are sweating out. And everybody can relate to that. But what I do is what I use a banana. What does a banana have in it? Potassium. That's a mineral, right? So the light turns on with a banana. So it is found in certain foods, but it's not to the point. I don't know anybody that eats as great as my mom. My mom's a health nut, literally. She's like, she's like huge health nut, and nobody eats like her. And she even adds supplement. It's to supplement a good diet. You are correct. But people get the stuff from Walgreens, or they get the stuff from Costco, or they get stuff from Walmart, and they're getting just junk, and they don't know it. They're trying to make the right choice. And so what you're trying to do is you're just trying to tell people, look, there is a difference. This company's been around for over 40 years. There's a reason they're around there's a reason why they're number 1 selling, because this stuff works, right? Because it fuels the body. I'll tell you what, with the season that we're in, I have to share this because we are in a season where there's a lot of talk about sickness and disease. to go to the hospital, don't go to the hospital, and all these things. And so when my husband had the dreaded C word, he was fevered for several days. So it was like a bad flu for him, right? But he could not hydrate. He was putting our drops in his water, and he was drinking it. But when you're asleep on your back, not feeling good, and you only get up every now and then because you're dealing with fever and you got the sweats, right? You're not getting it fast enough. You're not getting enough, right? So what he started doing by day 5, he was like, I think I'm gonna have to go to the emergency room and get an IV if and I was gone. I was out of town. I was in Austin right during this whole thing. So I'm talking to him by the phone, and he said, I just started doing what we used to do with football players. I just started squirting it in my mouth and then guzzling water. And he said, and then I would pass out. He was like, because you can't sit there and drink a gallon of water, infused with electrolytes when you're sick. You just won't do it. It's too late at that point, right? The fevers are causing dehydration, and then you're sweating and all this stuff. So it kept him from having to go to the emergency room, and it kept him, in a place where he was able to replenish. But it's too late if you don't already have it. And so for a long time, the mission was with all these guys as a police officer and sergeant was like, dude, guys, you got to have this on hand. Even if you don't use it every day, just have it on hand, because you never know when you're going to need to be in a situation where your body's not operating where it needs to, because it's too late to be like, I'm going to take my vitamin A and my vitamin D, and I'm going to do all these things. When you're sick like that, and you've got 100-something degree fevers, and your body is aching, and you feel like total crap, you're not going to be like, let me get my vitamin C, and so you have to be in survival mode at that point. Now, it's good to fuel yourself. That's what you're trying to tell people. It's like fuel your body every day so that when things hit, because it's going to hit, you and I got to talk about that before the podcast even started. You're going to get sick. You're going to get stuff. But if your immune system is ready for it, you'll be able to fight it. And then you can use your arsenal when you're in the midst of it to keep yourself from getting to a place where it gets really bad. Right?
That's it, exactly. So, my whole philosophy is I think of resilience as a bank account. And every single day, we're drawing money out of that bank account just to function. Stress comes, we take more money out of the bank account. A poor diet, more money out of the bank account. And before you know it, now we're in overdraft protection, or we're bankrupt, and we're in real trouble, right? Because we're no longer having the reserves necessary to deal with something when it comes with a lot more ease and grace. So to me, it's about, I'm building up a huge savings account of resilience for when the challenges come. I'm all about getting ahead of the curve, because as you said, if you get to a point where it's a little bit too late, you can make some inroads there. You can mitigate a little bit, but it's really so far behind that you're never going to actually have a dramatic effect in changing that. Now, it's not to say those aren't good practices when something comes, but doesn't it make a little bit of sense of saving for a rainy day? I mean, you save money for those rainy days as much as you can, because life happens. So same thing here. I have a very resilient bank account. I listen to the body. Now, you talked about this, about how our body gives us a signal. And sometimes the signal might be knocking on the door. I got a headache. Oh yeah, no problem. Let me just take this pain reliever, and I relieve the symptoms for a minute. The problem is I haven't gotten to the root of what's actually causing it. In this case, we're talking about hydration and proper nutritional support being the issue with the headache. Right. Guess what? If I'm ahead of that curve, I don't get the headache in the first place, right? And I know this from doing this for the last 30 plus years in my body. I have fine-tuned my machine. It's a Ferrari, and I put high test fuel in that. I select the highest grade of fuel every day because I'm not driving a Yugo. Okay. So this is what I'm saying to people is, we're not asking you to create massive behavioral changes. What we are saying is augment some of the things you're doing that are taking money out of that resilience account. Let's put some money back in. Now, I want to go over your products really quickly here, just so people understand what's available. And I'm going to state again, these are a daily use for me because I'm building my resilience bank account. And I only put the best of the best that I can find out there in my machine. I'm going to say it again. It's not a paid endorsement for Jennifer. I'm telling you because I'm a user with anecdotal evidence that this works. And a lot of my clients use these products. They work for them too. So Jennifer, I want to talk about the two products briefly, and then how can people get them? The first one I want to talk about is my fave.
I know you love that stuff.
I love
You buy it in bulk. It's so
I
funny.
buy it in bulk, literally. My partner, Dr. Brandy, she and I utilize this every day. This is one of the things that we absolutely love as a product. So this one's called, and for those of you who can't see this on the screen right now because we're audio, for you, this is called the Power Pack. Jennifer, talk to us a little bit about the Power Pack. What's in it? What does somebody get for this particular product?
That one is like, it's immunity hydration. So it's got the vitamin C in it, right? And it's got a few B's and it's kind of like in the lemon lime, it's kind of like giving your body that little bit of a boost every day, that in a liquid form. And I like to tell people, like, do it in like 3 or 4 ounces, so that it gets that fizz and you get that, like, I do like 2 packets at one time and then I squirt the, electrolyte, ionic electrolytes in it too before a workout, because I like to charge myself. It just fuels at the cellular level. It's just got a lot of really good, it's the only thing out there I find that has a good flavor to it, and it's not going to take from you. It's going to add that energy in an enduring way. Like we get tired, and so we reach for the caffeine. And listen, I'm a caffeine person. I love caffeine, but I always have electrolytes with it, right? Or something, so what this will do is, it kind of like what we were saying earlier, just gives you more of that boost at the cellular level, wakes up that brain, wakes up that body, and just gives you that overall feel good, like whenever you get that tickle in the back of your throat, and you're like, oh, I'm coming down with something this time of year or whatever. It's a nice go-to to be able to like have that, little boost. It's not life-changing, but to me, it's like when my husband was sick, I started doing, 2 packets every 2 hours, because I wanted to have that boost in my body. I wanted to really fuel myself. Now, if you do that, you're going to find yourself in the bathroom a lot. So sure. Taking too much minerals or too much anything is going to cause that effect. But it's just an easy, simple way. And a lot of parents say it's an easier way to get some good essential, good old-fashioned vitamin C. I don't know how many milligrams of vitamin C. It's like 1,200 or something like that in there.
1,200 in this particular packet, and I really liked the reformulation that you recently did to it. For me, I utilize this in a number of different ways, but my favorite is I make a green drink every day with a whole bunch of vegetables in there, lots of veggies. I nuke that with a bunch of water, and then I add this to augment the minerals that are already in that just from natural sources. Now, when I finish that smoothie, my goodness, it's very interesting because not only am I energetically sustained for hours, I feel nutritionally sustained too. I don't get those cravings for the carbohydrates and all the things that, we might want when we're kind of low on that energy scale. I don't need it. This sustains me for a long time. So this one's called the Power Pack, and you can see that on the website. We'll give you that web address here in a minute. It's filled with all kinds of vitamins and minerals in here. And there's a tangible effect that I've noticed. Everyone I've turned it on to says the same thing. Now, the other product that I take daily as well, and depending on the level of exertion I'm going to do during the day, is how much I take. I kind of go by feel on that. But that's going to be the concentrated electrolytes. And this is the label. For those of you who can't see it, that's what it's called, JMar concentrated electrolytes. And I just add this. I'll add this to my coffee in the morning. And I like to make a buttered coffee. And I put it's a fat bomb. I like staying in ketosis first thing in the day. But I add my electrolytes to that.
I do that too.
And then if I'm out in my property and I'm cutting a tree down, or I'm running a burn pile in the winter, very labor intensive activity, living at these elevations and having a piece of property, you are always physically working. The electrolytes get doubled down and they simply go right in here. I just put a few drops in and I can't taste it. I don't taste any change to my water personally. It's just in there, and it's so easy to add. And then I'm good to go. And I know that I feel the
Mm-hmm.
difference. Like if I don't use these electrolyte drops and I just go out and I drink water, I'm a wreck at the end of the day. When I use these, I have a lot more energy throughout my day. It's
Yeah.
sustained energy. And I feel great at the end of the day. I don't feel dehydrated, burned out, wiped out. But I got to tell you, there's been times where I've just forgotten and gone
Mm-hmm.
out and done my thing. Because once, let's say I'm doing burn piles, I'm stuck out there. I can't come
Mm-hmm.
in. I can't leave the burn piles. And I will notice being just totally drained at the end of the day when I don't use these. So personally, for me, my personal testimonial is I feel this, I notice it. It's now become simply a daily part of my resilience building.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when we created the label for this with the company that makes it. We put concentrated electrolytes on there, right? Because that's what they are. It's ionic, concentrated, fast-absorbing electrolytes, and so that made sense to me. But we're changing the name of it because people don't understand. We're changing it to rapid rehydration drops because of the speed. And so I was like, we got it. And that came to me. It came to me when I was reading God's word. I was like, we have got to change. We got to. I'm not getting across the power of having something like this available for your family, or available for your work crew, or available for your sports team, whatever. Right? available to the person, and understanding the power of what electrolytes do for the entire body. And so, like I like to say like this, like, I'm going to add some life back into my water. Like it's just like adding that life and energy. Everything about life is energy. When I walk in a room, I want to bring the best energy into that room that I can to help take that to help change the atmosphere of that room, to bring it to an elevated place. That's what I love doing. I love elevating people and getting them to that next level, that next thing. That's what a coach does. And as that's what I did my whole life. I did it with my kids, I did it with my husband, I do it with the athletes that I worked with. Now I'm doing it in the labor industry. I call them my industrial athletes. When I go out to a field and these guys are exhausted and I have a solution to their exhaustion, I want to bring that energy, because that's what changes people's lives in such a positive way. It's everything. It's like when you have a low energy. If I'm hungry and my energy level's low, my kids do not ask me for anything. They don't even want to talk to me because they know it's going to be negative and no. So if you can keep that energy level going, which you can't do with caffeine, it's a short burst, right? You can keep energy going with minerals because that's what we're made of. God bent over, and I don't care where you're at on that spectrum, but I'm going to say it. God bent over and he breathed life into the earth and man was created. So we are built upon that. And then we negate it from everything in our life. We over sugar, over stressed, over, over diseased in all ways, inflammation and all these things are happening to our bodies and we're trying to function and we're not sleeping enough. And then we're gonna hydrate and then I'm gonna dehydrate all night long drinking and I'm just as bad. I love my wine, but it's nice to have an alternative, to have the know-how. And I love that you're doing that for people, and it's simple and it's easy.
Simple and easy, and that's what I'm about, right? Simple and easy, but with an effect that we can notice. And that's the thing, you mentioned something I think is another important piece of this is, yeah, you can drink a little bit of caffeine and get a little bit of that energy burst, but this is sustained energy for a long period of time throughout the day. And you know that you're doing something very, very important for your body on a foundational level, right? Because you're feeding those foundations that give us the ability to be at our simple best. I get people pushing back on me all the time, oh, Roger, this,
I
that,
love
the
it.
other thing. And I don't mind the pushback because it's a discussion, right? We can have a really good discussion about the why. And, I may not live a day longer than anyone else, right? Let's just say that I check out next week. And somebody will say, see, you want to waste all that exercise and nutrition. I go, yeah, here's the thing. I feel really good every single day in my body. I wouldn't trade that for anything, even if I don't live another day longer.
Because you can help more people.
Day, I feel amazing. I'm 60 years old at the taping of this particular show. I run circles around men half my
Mhm.
age. That should not be happening. Why
Yeah.
is that happening? Because I've decided that my health is a priority in my life, and it makes every aspect of my life that much more vibrant, that much more alive, that much better. Jennifer, I
Mhm.
want to make sure as we end the show here that everybody knows where they can, go to look at this, get a little more information from your website, check out the
Yeah.
products. How do they get a hold of you?
JMar Solutions.net. So here's the thing. JMar is J and then MAR. It's because my husband, 20 years ago, as a joke, started calling me JMar because Jennifer Lopez, who is a singer, her boyfriend at the time called her J-Lo. And so he thought it was funny, since my name was Jennifer Martinez, to call me JMar. And actually, that's what I, when I started my training business, it was JMar Fit. So it just stuck. And so then when we decided to create this company to help the labor industry, we were thinking of names and things like that, and they're like, you got to stay with JMar, and so it's JMar Solutions. We had to change. There's another JMar Solutions out there, so we had to change it to JMar Wellness Solutions. But everything that we are on website, on Instagram, on pretty much Facebook too, but I use my personal one now because Facebook and social media right now is just out of control. But if you did it right, jmarsolutions.net is our website, and there's plenty of information on there. I'm actually adding more every day. We're revamping a lot of things. We're changing the verbiage of stuff because I want it to be simpler. I want it to be easier. I didn't start this business to sell electrolytes. I started it to help the industry. But when COVID hit and all these things, I wanted to be able to provide it to everyone. And so that's why we put that on the website. We're even trying to get it on Amazon. We'll see. It's been an ordeal. Everything's an ordeal. Verbiage, like even saying increased energy is like prescribing. So, there's all these things we have to be careful about when we're trying to come up with the right terminology for people to understand the power of what electrolytes can do for your body and at the ionic level. I want to say really quick is those packets are great, but what if people always say, well, which one's better? Okay, they're totally different. One is for immunity and has minerals in it. It's still good, complete thing. I mean, I do them every day. I love those packets. But the ionic liquid electrolyte, the 4-ounce bottle, if you had to choose one or the other for survival reasons or to have for powerful, that's the one, because that's the one that's going to be able to be put in anything. You can put it in soup. You can put it in any kind of liquid. You can put it directly in your mouth. It'll taste horrible, but you can get what you need from it. Because if you have someone going down, my daughter works in the emergency room here. And the first thing they always do when a person comes into the emergency room is they hook them up to an IV. Why? It doesn't matter if they, what it is they're dealing with. They put because they need those fluids. We need to have those the salt and the water right in our body to function. Without that, we're dead. And so that it's one of those things where even if you don't want to do it daily and it's like a hassle, at least have it available if you get in a situation where you aren't well. Because I interviewed the doctor that works for this company, and he said the one thing that people don't understand is dehydration. When you're in a dehydrated state, which most of us are because we eat too much sugar and we, our lifestyles and the things we drink liquids that don't hydrate us, that actually dehydrate us more, right? Our lungs get sticky and hold on to disease. He said when we're hydrated, our hydrated lungs shed disease, and they don't have a sticky. It's like a sticky film that actually happens in the lung. And so people who deal with asthma and stuff like that, when they're hydrated properly, they actually reduce their ability to have so many incidences. I mean, it's a hydration thing. Because my own daughter, she'll work a 12-hour shift and not drink an ounce of water because she's a nurse and she's going from person to person, person to person to person. That ER, I mean, ER, that's how those shifts work, and she'll start not feeling good, and she'll recognize it. Oh, I haven't had, because they can't have water at their stations and stuff. That's weird. But it's like the health industry is not healthy, right? But she can recognize things and go, well, my headache is not because of anything other than the fact that I'm not hydrated right. So she keeps it in her bag. She keeps it in her locker. She can squirt it and guzzle and then move on, whereas you can't do that with other things. And so you have to have something in your arsenal case that you can do that with. And it's a simple way to get through. It's not the answer to everything, but to me, if I wasn't home and my husband was by himself, taking care of himself with that, with high fevers and stuff, if he didn't have that access to that sitting next to him, he probably would have had to go to the emergency room, which is not a bad thing, but I mean, what a hassle. And then you're there and then they're like, oh, you got the C word, and then we're going to treat you with all these other things. And, he didn't want to go down that route because all he wanted to be was hydrated, because he knew he could find it.
Well, this is my entire philosophy, is to, again, just staying ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to find products that make that easy. And that's what you've done. You've created something that has very high quality, delivers on the hype. And, let's be honest, you and I are not doctors. We're just people trying to do the best that we can. I encourage everyone, and I say this on virtually every podcast, don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Go to the website, check out the products, check out what's in it, compare, contrast, see what else is out there, and then make a decision for yourself. And if you have any concerns, consult with a doctor or a licensed medical professional.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Never take our word for it. Go take a dive yourself. But I'm telling you that I have found these products to be just remarkable for me personally. That's my personal testimony. And that's why I wanted to bring Jennifer on the show today.
I appreciate you so much.
It's lovely to have you here. And as we're moving forward, friends, take this stuff seriously, because at the end of the day, my advice is put as much money in your resilience bank account as you can, because no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter how many resources you have, I promise you, life is going to come and issue challenges. And to me, I want to be at my best to navigate those things, the adversities of life, with a lot more ease and grace. And I think that's what these products do, Jennifer. So thank you so much for coming on the show and elaborating a little bit on this, providing the information. I think this is going to benefit a lot of people.
Yes, I'm so excited. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. You know that, but I do. I appreciate you giving me a platform and to be able to help people. And, I'm excited for the day that you move to Texas.
I appreciate it. Well, friends, that's it for today's show. And I'll have some links to things in the show notes that allow you to access some of this as well. But remember, it's jmarsolutions.net. And you can get more information about these products. And of course, you can always reach out to me anytime. I'm just about, as a matter of fact, I know for a fact, when we get this particular show produced and out there, you'll have access to my brand new website, RogerRugiResilienceCoach.com. So you can always get a hold of me there, or you can just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always around. Thanks everyone for joining today's show. I'll catch you on the next one.